emotional support.
Yeah.
Haunted tree.
Mm-hmm.
Is he ready?
And where's Ghosty? Oh, Ghosty's over there. She's watching us.
Hello, and welcome to Spooky Sips, where we put our love of horror movies into a podcast and sip some spirits along the way. I'm one of your hosts, Yvette, here with my co-hosts, Laura and Brianna.
Hello.
Hey. We literally just got back from the theaters.
Yes.
We watched Nosferatu. This is the 2024 movie. And we've got a lot to talk about.
Yes.
If you haven't heard of this, because it's an old movie, and is it a novel or was it just a movie?
It was loosely based on Dracula.
Oh, okay. Okay. So it takes place in 1830s. There's this estate agent, Thomas, who is newlywed to his beloved Ellen. And he is told that he has to, travel to Transylvania to sign over this deed for a count that will be moving to their town. And that's kind of where it all starts. There's a lot happening, and we'll just get into it as we explain.
Yes.
Yeah. That's a good summary.
Here we go.
Here we go. So obviously this movie just came out, so none of us have seen this movie before.
Yes.
But have either of you seen the original Nosferatu?
No. Well, so this is the third remake.
Oh, is
I haven't.
it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So there was the 1922, the original one. And then I think there was a remake in 78. Don't quote me. It was in the 70s. And then this one. So there's multiple remakes. I haven't seen any of them. This is my first time seeing it.
The original one I think was a silent one because I think as I was just looking up the name, a little preview of it came up and it looks really, really old school. Obviously it's 1922, but maybe someday we need to watch that one so we can compare them.
I know.
But that's not today. That's not this episode.
No. But for our listeners, we did watch Dracula, the original one. We watched that in episode 27, Dracula and the Vampire. So if you're interested in our take on that, go and re-listen or listen to episode 27.
Yeah.
And the Dracula we watched was with what's the guy's name?
Lugosi or what is it?
It's like a
Bella
Lugosi or something. Because it's like a beautiful name for a beautiful man.
Yes.
It's like
Yes.
I just love his name so much. It's like, of course, your name is beautiful. All right. Well,
I love the movie. I feel like we should just get started.
Yeah.
I feel like we just got back to the theater. I feel like as soon as it ended, I was like, I feel like I've just been through such a journey. It was a slow burn.
Yes,
it was a slow burn. We can say that. It was a slow burn. And it was long, but it was good.
Yeah.
It was I felt satisfied at the end. I'd just been through something.
Yeah. I feel like my initial reaction was just that was quite literally and then also just psychologically one of the darkest movies I've seen in a long time.
Yes.
Visually, super dark movie. Just the ideas behind it and the things that happened in the movie and the emotions of the people, super dark.
Yes.
But also so beautiful. The music was beautiful. The scenery was beautiful. It was just a beautiful dark journey.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So here's a little insider peek for our listeners. We went with some family members. We went with Yvette's husband and Laura's husband. And then Laura and I, if you don't know this by now, you must just be listening, but Laura and I are sisters. Our dad loves horror movies. Not as much as we do, but he, when a horror is done well, he wants to watch it. But our mom does not. And it was cute. We were all going, so she called me and she was like, I want to come. So I suggested, I was like, why don't you go watch the preview and then let me know? Because she asked if it's going to be scary. And I was like, I think it's going to be dark. I don't know how jump scary, but it's going to be dark.
Yeah.
And then a few minutes later, my dad texted me and he was like, she says it's too scary. So it's just,
she's not going to go. So.
I feel like the word that I would use to describe this movie was, in addition to dark, was just eerie.
Yeah.
I feel like so many scenes, it spooked me out, not jump scare,
right?
But just so there was a couple of little jump scares here and there, but it was just eerie. It was just spooky.
Yeah. Well, and I feel like we try not to talk about it, but it's hard not to. but one thing we were talking about was it was also very romantic, like of like the romance like era,
like the gothic
romance. Like you also got some of that in there
because there were definitely scenes that reminded me of Crimson Peak.
Yes,
especially like when they go show his new house in the town. It's like got a very similar gate, and it opened up, and it had that same kind of like vibe,
very Crimson Peak,
which we also covered, but I don't remember the episode, so go look for yourself.
Yes.
We also did that.
It'll be in the title.
Yeah,
but it had that gothic,
romantic,
haunted.
I feel like this movie I was really excited for. I think we don't always talk a ton about the directors, but this was written and directed by Robert Eggers, who did The Lighthouse, The Witch with 2 V's, The Vivitch, and The Northman. So, like, I've watched all of his movies because he hasn't actually made that many, and they've all been so good.
Is something wrong with me? Have I seen any of those? I don't know if I've seen any of them.
We've seen The Witch.
Have I?
I remember seeing it. Oh, you know what? It is. What year is it? Isn't it like 2010?
The Witch.
I actually
or later 2000. When is
it? Was I swear it's 2010s.
Because it's 2015 when I moved out here.
Because I remember seeing it with Dad.
I don't remember. I don't know that I've ever seen that movie. So we might need to add it to our list.
Yeah, no, we'll add it because I love his movies. He does such a good job of like throwing you into a world and just being like, these are the characters. We're just throwing you in, not like a ton of introduction, really. No. Like, this is the world you're in when we're going to fully create it.
Yes, so, you're like dropped into it.
I loved it. It was great.
So I was really excited, which, you know, I'm always scared when I'm excited for a movie because I'm like, it's going to be disappointing because I'm excited about it. But this one I thought, well done.
Like, not to just harp on it too much, but I feel like that happened with Long Legs.
Yeah.
For sure.
That was the disappointment of the year.
For sure. No, this one was not disappointing. It was almost like the darkness of it and like the eeriness of it was like comforting. Like it was just so beautiful and just like creepy, and it just like it felt like a nice little like warm blanket.
That's exactly how Crimson Peak felt for me.
Yeah,
I think that was the first time that I saw a movie like that where I was just like, oh, I love this style of movie.
And like that's not to say this movie wasn't absolutely disturbing. You are seeing flesh being eaten, pigeons' heads get ripped off.
Yes.
Like but it was just comforting.
Yeah, no, I don't know what it is about us, but we were so cozy in the theater.
There's some psychology to
no, we really were.
Go down in that.
Something so soothing about selling your soul to the darkness.
Yep. I mean, you know, loved it. But yeah, so I also like that it started out, and I was a little nervous because we've talked about this many times on our podcast, but people are awful. And so I was nervous that people in the theater were going to ruin this.
Yes. Because it's a very quiet movie.
It's very quiet.
Long periods of just quiet.
Yeah.
There were certain times where I thought that the sounds of people took me out of it, but we'll get to that. But for the most part, I think they actually did pretty good.
Yeah.
And so it starts out and it's just really quiet, and we hear this like music box music, and then someone crying.
Yes. And I'm just going to be the one to say it. Okay, are we all ready?
Ready.
Yeah.
I might be the only one. But I felt like a lot of times that the women were either crying or making sounds. There was a very sexual undertone.
That was 100% right.
100%. Yeah.
That was 100%.
No, I mean, that was
like, I was like, am I just like, do I need to excuse myself? What's happening?
In addition to this movie being like dark and eerie and disturbing, it was also so sexual.
Again, it was like, romantic.
It was in a very like quiet, classy way.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. It wasn't just nudity for nudity. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because I feel like in the horror genre, that like watch things
like
killing.
What
we're talking about.
Flashback to Thanksgiving.
Nightmares about that. But yes, and it all made sense to the plot when it was in it. I felt like,
but for me, I feel like that almost makes it seem like more intimate, that it wasn't just like done for sexy value.
Yeah.
Because then I was like, I don't know, I just found myself very aware that I was in the theater with like other people and family members, and I was like,
I was sitting next to Dad, so
it was uncomfortable.
No, there were multiple scenes where it's like, I'm with family.
Yes. But yes, that is how it opens.
Yeah, and she's saying kind of like a prayer. I also just love there are so many times where they're like the dialogue sounds like a mix of a poem and a prayer from both the main character Ellen and then also Count Orlok.
I think
Orlok. Okay, so she's like saying a prayer, and we learn that, and something about it is that she woke him.
Yes, because she's like calling to something.
Yeah, she's like praying. Almost like please, like someone listen.
Yeah, like come to me. Like she's calling out to something, and something answers.
Something answers, and then it's like she's possessed, and it's like she's kind of in a dream, but it's hard to tell if she's in a dream or not.
Yeah.
So I wrote that she's possessed and that he strangles her kind of in her dream. And
in a
then
very sexual way.
Very sexual, in a very sexual way. She is writhing. And that was all black and white.
Right.
Yeah.
Or just shot in such dark lighting that it seemed black and
I feel
white.
like it was so moody that even if it wasn't I mean, if it wasn't black and white, like it had that effect, you know?
But then it gets to color, and then we see that it's like color film, and then it's Germany in 1838.
Yeah. Oh, that was it.
1838.
Yeah. And we see, wait, what is her name? Helen?
Ellen.
Ellen.
Oh
I did not learn her name until I looked it up on IMDb because
they don't say her name
something
much.
different.
Oh, Ellen.
Well, they all call her. There was like Nanny and Minnie and Nellie and
well,
like they all had different.
Well, I think part of it was the accents too.
Yeah.
Like it was like there were kind of very okay. Before we keep going, how do you guys feel about the language thing? Because I feel like they did the thing that sometimes I don't love in movies, which is have some people speak not English and then have the actor respond in English.
Yeah.
And I don't know
because I'm like,
they do that.
Does that just mean they understood it?
Yeah.
But they don't speak it?
Right.
Yeah. I think that it should always be that like it's either that they speak it and hear it or they don't, and there's there's the person in the middle that's like the translator or the go-between.
You know, I don't know, as someone who has known another language and communicated with people in it, I would find myself like, because my receptive language of American Sign Language was way stronger, so I would find myself, someone would sign to me and I would respond back, and if I couldn't always like in their language say it, I would speak English back. And then sometimes partially sign or partially. So I don't know. I feel like maybe if you know both languages, but you're more comfortable in one, you might listen to someone in one language and respond because I've done it.
Yeah. No, I mean, I believe that it happens. I just don't like when they do it in movies.
Okay, and this was my other question. What language are they? Because that didn't sound German.
It did not sound German.
So
it sounded Latin or something.
What? Yeah, it sounded Latin, like Nosferatu. His sounded like Latin.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
When he would say things like, I mean, it sounded Latin based, like knowing like Spanish and like a bit of French. Yeah, it was like very Latin based. I was like, these sound like words I can translate. Okay. I could loosely capture some of that.
But it also like, because I feel like a lot of people think of Nosferatu and Dracula as kind of intertwined, even though they're parallel, but not like the same. But it wasn't like he's like from Transylvania or whatever, but he did do that, the way he talked with the heavy R's and the
because that's how the description is. The description is that he was in Transylvania.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like that. He was there. Yeah, so that's where he came from. So I guess
he was going to Germany. So
he was coming from Transylvania.
Yes, we did get the long and drawn out. Which I feel like maybe we should talk about him a little because we see him at the beginning, right? When
with her,
Ellen, Ellen summons him. I loved the vampire. Like the way that I feel like what I think of as a vampire is like you just get a guy with like a cape and the long teeth.
No, this was every part of his body was a vampire.
It was like the full he's like a zombie like corpse come back to life in order to be a vampire.
Yes, that's exactly what it was.
And for me, the most upsetting part about him, and they did such a good job and put so much detail, was his knobby, elongated hands,
yes,
like his hands, and then the nails on top of it. But even just the hands themselves, they have all these like unnatural bumps and knobs, and they're like, but they're also looking decayed, even though they were so cool.
And his breathing.
Oh, his breathing
again, like. It's exactly what you said. It's like if a corpse came back to life. Like, of course they couldn't breathe right.
Yeah.
Like they're dead. Like, yes.
So, which apparently was being played by Bill Skarsgård.
Yes.
Which I didn't realize until the credits rolled.
I only knew because I saw it in an Instagram thing. Like, I only knew it was him because I had seen.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
He's unrecognizable.
We try so hard to stay away. If it's like a new movie, we don't do this with old ones we haven't seen, but with new, like, we try so hard
to like not
but you know, on it, like, doing Spooky Sips Instagram is impossible to avoid all.
Right.
Yeah. And I think they tried to keep it a secret, like how he would look and stuff, but
you
I
would
didn't
never
realize
know.
it until, because I think it was even the end credits where then it said like, oh, starring, and it had just like the big actors' names.
Yep.
So when I saw him, I was like, wait, who did he play?
Yep.
And then I was like, oh my God, he must have been.
Was it his voice?
Yes. So he had to do, like, he got like voice training to like lower his voice.
I was going to say it's
octaves.
so much lower.
And it doesn't sound like him.
At all.
So yeah, he did a bunch of like vocal training to like lower his voice. He said that like when he was getting ready, like it sounded like Mongolian throat singing, you know, just like trying to get it all like
oh my
ready.
gosh, that's amazing that you point that out, because at one point, and I tried to take like some little notes in the dark theater, at one point I just wrote down, he was talking and then all of a sudden he just goes,
yes.
And it lasted so long. And I was like, that sounds like that throat singing thing. Oh, that's funny.
But I imagine, like, I feel like that's one of those things where, like, as an actor, that must be so hard to, like, transition into that and then out of it, you know?
Well, it's like, I feel like people gave Ariana Grande such a hard time because her voice changed, but she did it because, like, her voice person, trainer, or whatever, was like, because of all the singing that you're doing in your upcoming movie, like, you have to treat your vocal cords, right? You have to, like, protect them. So she changed her voice over time to, like, protect her vocal cords. And then it's like, that's a real thing that, like, actors and singers have to do, you know?
Yeah.
Okay, one other fun fact since we're talking about him, but originally Bill Skarsgård was going to play Thomas.
Okay.
Because I just think he plays such a good villain.
Yes.
Like, this is now his thing. This is all he can do.
I know,
Sorry,
but that's the thing.
do
you think, though, like, sometimes maybe he wants to actually show his face?
No, but you know what? Here's the thing. I actually think he has the versatility to be able to. Like, I know people always gave, like, Jack Nicholson a hard time because they're like, you'll forever be from The Shining. Like, you can never play another role.
Yeah.
But with him, with Bill, nobody knows that he's in the roles he is. So he could just go do a romantic comedy and no one would know.
But I feel like I don't know how long he was like cast in that. Like, I don't know if they like actually started doing anything, but if they had started doing some scenes, I feel like that would add to the chemistry between him and like Ellen, you know, like if they had started as like being like, oh, like these are gonna be the lovers, and then it's like, oh, now you're actually gonna be Nosferatu.
Oh, that would be cool.
I feel like that would have really helped. So yeah, then they transitioned him away from that.
Okay.
To be Count Orlok.
I really liked the cast. I felt like I liked every character. I thought the acting was great in this movie. It was super good.
Was really good.
I agree.
So Ellen is played by Lily Rose Depp, who I looked up is in fact the daughter of Johnny Depp.
Yes.
Johnny Depp.
And fun fact, Sippers, if you listen to our episode on Tusk and watched the movie, Johnny Depp is in it, but so is she.
Yeah.
She was one of the cashiers in the gas station.
Yep, she's one of those.
And she was so good in it.
Like, good.
She hasn't really been in, like, I know she's been in a few things, but she hasn't, like...
Yeah, I feel like I haven't seen her in a role like this.
Oh, she was so good.
She was really good in this. She nailed it. Like, the emotions,
the facial,
the facial features, she went through it all.
Even just like the physical stuff. Like at one point later on, there's a hardcore like possession that we see, and I was noticing the form of her wheel that she did.
Oh yes,
because she's she basically is doing this like wheel back bend yoga thing, and I was like, well, that's pretty good form.
Yeah, she does yoga.
Oh,
she has to.
She has to.
Ready. She was so ready to go. It was amazing.
No, yeah, she was so good. So originally, Anna Taylor-Joy was going to be.
I could see that as well.
Which I could totally see. And she had done The Witch
Right.
with Robert Eggers. So it kind of like made sense. But I think because of scheduling, she ended up backing out. And then apparently for Thomas, there were also talks of having Harry Styles.
No.
No.
That would be a no for me.
I agree. I don't think he would have. I don't know. What was the movie he did with
where they like were in a simulation?
Yeah. Oh, what was that one?
It had like a name, like
whatever that
name.
Was. Yes,
I know exactly what you're talking about.
I don't know.
I saw him in that. I don't need to see
Agreed.
more, but his music is great.
Yeah, no, I like who they went with. They went with, it was Nicholas Hoult.
Yeah.
Yes.
And he was cute.
Don't worry,
was so
darling.
good. Don't worry, darling. Yes.
Oh.
Okay. While I was watching the movie, though, I felt like I was having flashbacks. I was like, this is like deja vu. Like, I feel like I've seen him do this before. And it's because he plays Renfield in the movie Renfield.
Oh.
With Nick Cage, right? Where so like he's literally played kind of like that vampire assistant role.
Oh,
yeah, but I was like having this moment of like, why do I feel like I've seen him do this before, like in the movie?
Okay, all right, that makes sense.
And honestly, I always think, because like you always hear like nepo babies, but I actually think like that probably works so hard against you in so many ways. That like,
because people are going to judge you for being. They're going to think that you have no talent,
exactly,
even if you do. So
and then
if
you're
to
not
be better.
Perfect, they're going to tear you a lot. But I thought she was amazing.
Yeah. No, yeah. If being a nepo baby got her foot in the door, okay, whatever. She delivered.
Yeah,
she put in the work.
No, fantastic.
No, she did great. She did great.
Yeah.
So we see her and Thomas. They're newlyweds, and he's like telling her that he got this job. He's like a real estate person, solicitor.
Yeah.
So he got a job, so it's going to take him away for a while. And I like that they're just having this like moment as newlyweds. And she's like, "Don't go." And then the cat, Greta,
I love the cat so much,
just pops up on the bed, and she's so cute. And I was like, "Oh, I love Greta." I loved the cats in this. There were so many cats in this movie.
Okay, so we're going to take a slight tangent again. I know we haven't gotten very far in the description.
It's a new movie. I feel like this is going to be more of a breakdown.
I only saw one interview, and it was with the director and Lily, and they were talking about the cats, because I guess what they did is her and Nicholas Hoult like went in a room with all the cats, and the cats that like were drawn to them, that's how they chose who was in the scene. But it got me wondering, because also all the rats are real. There were no computer animated rats. They were all completely real.
Okay.
Which
even the dead ones?
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
At the end of the movie, it said no animals.
Right. So
and it said they were all rat actors.
Yeah.
So
which like they have a little resume.
I know. A little picture, like a little headshot.
It's too much. It's too much.
But it got me thinking, like, and I tried to look it up, and I didn't get much information. But like, how does that work? Like, whose cats are those?
I know.
Because I guess there is a huge company that's like the majority. They're like bird and animal company for LA, and they use. But I was like, but how does that work? Like,
I mean, I'm sure some people just have like actor like pets.
Yeah,
right?
like just rent their cat out to the film.
I've been recently watching a lot of New Girl, and there's an episode there where they have like the one cat. The one character is trying to like get into acting, so he like takes him to an audition and stuff because he's trying. So I almost wonder if it's something like that. Like you have your cat and you're like, my cat's beautiful. Ferguson's the best cat in the world. Takes him to.
I love it.
So I almost wonder if it's like partially something like that.
But yeah, I loved the cats in this. So apparently that's how they do it. You just go and vibe.
I like that there was one scene where it was kind of more of a serious scene. I forget when it happened in the movie, but there's a bunch of cats in the room with it. And you can tell that this was totally just natural, because then you just hear a cat meowing a couple of times.
Yes.
And like, that wasn't like, you could tell that was like not intended,
that was
but
just her cat.
It was like, you're in a room with cats. There's sometimes going to meow.
I do think she had a cat in the original Nosferatu as well.
Okay.
So they didn't add the cat. Perfect. That was part of the original one, which I love it. Which I guess that was supposed to add to the whole like, Count Orlok, he's surrounded by rats, whereas Ellen is surrounded by cats.
You know? Yep.
Cats superior to rats.
Yes.
I don't know.
I love line that she gave where it's Willem Dafoe's character is like, "Oh, is this your cat?" You know, like, and she's like, "Oh, yes." You know, she has no owner or master. I forget what the line is.
It's Mrs. and master.
Yeah, she has no master or mistress. She's her own.
Yes,
basically, she makes her own decisions.
Which is every cat.
She has her own free will or something like that. Like, she does her own thing.
No master or mistress.
I mean, I will say one of my favorite movies is Ratatouille, so I think I'm on the rat side here.
Okay, I was going to wait to talk about this till the end, but because we're talking about the cats, I'm just going to do it now. Not to spoil anything, but at the very end of the movie, there's some significant deaths. And I just love that at the end, little Greta was in the room during the entire murder. She gives zero fucks. At the end, she was just like jumping up into the person's arms and like, yeah, I just watched this murder happen and I don't care. Where's my food?
I'm just here. I'm hungry. Where are the rats?
Yeah, give me a rat.
It's amazing. I love it. Okay, so he, getting back to the movie, Thomas goes, even though Ellen is saying don't go, and because she even explains, I think she said that she has a dream where she says that I was marrying you, but it wasn't you. It was death. It was just this dark shadow. And then all of our wedding guests were death. But then the creepiest part that she says is she's like, I was so happy.
Yes.
I was so happy about it. So don't go.
Yeah.
Like, that's ominous warning.
There's something about that because at least for me, I was like, so is she like into the devil? Like, is she evil? Is she, because it was like the beginning scene almost made it seem like she like summoned,
and she was enjoying it until she died.
Exactly. So I was like, and there's just something about it because, you know, she's so like young and pale and beautiful. So she's just this beautiful little person saying these like horrifying things, and he's like, don't ever tell anyone about this.
No, I love the 1800s of it all, which is just like, don't speak of such things.
Don't ever speak
like
of this again.
Trying to process what she's going through. He's like, don't speak of that ever.
Well, and they talk about this is all just due to her past, because in the past they say that she's had quote unquote melancholy is what they call it.
Yeah.
And this is just her melancholy coming back, and
because he is leaving her in the care of their friends. There's two friends. It's a husband and wife, and they have two daughters, and they're leaving Ellen to stay with them while he travels. So that is also part of it.
So but he decides that he's gonna go anyway. And so she snips off some of her hair. Again, it's just so beautifully shot. Even just the scene of her just like cutting off her hair to put in the locket. Like, it's so.
And there was some kind of powder in the locket.
I know. At first, I thought it was like cocaine.
I did too. I was like, "Fuck yeah!" A little bump.
Yeah, just get you through the travels. But yeah, so she puts her hair in the locket. We also see at this point it cuts to the scene of this creepy naked man doing this ritual where he's like drawing in blood, and there's all these like occult style.
There's like a very star shaped.
Pentagram style, you know. Which I didn't recognize who that was.
I did not either.
Like,
it took me until the end of the movie, or like until like,
wait, who was it?
That was
Thomas's boss.
Canuck. That was Canuck.
Sent him too.
That was Canuck the whole time.
I never made that connection.
Yeah, it took me a minute.
It took me until they said it, and they only said it once.
I totally glazed over that.
They said it when I think it was after Canuck ate the pigeon's head. They said something about Canuck, and I was like, "Oh, wait a second!
Oh, I didn't know that's who that was. I just thought he was another crazy person."
And then he said, "Providence," because he's the one that like kept kind of like Providence, like as he like did it. I feel like it took me a long time
to
realize who that was.
So to summarize for people who like might need a summary, even though you should have watched the movie if you're listening to this podcast. Tom goes to this man who's going to give him the job. The man's name is Canuck. And this is the crazy, like, Satan worshiper, it would appear.
Who wants to be like his lackey. Basically.
Who wants to be the count's lackey. So really, we learn a little bit later in the movie, like, Tom never stood a chance. No. He was stood up from the beginning, or set up from the beginning. Like, Yeah. So Tom's got to go on this epic journey. And I was just thinking to myself, he's got to like ride for days on horseback to get to this man's house.
6 weeks is how long he was going to be gone.
When he said 6 weeks, I was expecting like a carriage.
Yes.
And then he just hops on a horse. I was like, wait, he's doing that for 6 weeks?
And I was just thinking, like, what kind of gear do you need for that? Like, is he ever camping or does he just go town to town?
Right.
And like, what happens if like he gets sick or the horse
dies,
sprains an ankle or something?
Right.
Like,
I feel like 6 weeks was crazy. And then I feel like his journey didn't feel like 6 weeks.
No, it did not. It felt like 2 days.
Rode into town and then was like, oh, there's the castle. Like,
right.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, the first thing we saw in his travel is when he gets to the town outside of the castle.
Yes.
And, this word isn't used anymore, but they called them gypsies is what they called them.
Yes.
And that scene was wild because it's such a strange occurrence. Like the kids are excited he's there and they're kind of pulling him into the town and there's musicians and there's dancers happening.
It's like they were waiting for him.
Exactly. And so he's like walking in and then there's a guy that's standing at the porch of one of the buildings and he just starts laughing.
Yes.
And then everyone starts laughing. And you see Thomas's face is just like bewildered.
Like, what do I do now?
What did I walk into?
But then the old man who's the innkeeper comes and gets him. And he's basically like, you can't be here. Like, you cannot go to the castle.
Well, because he even says like, I need a room because I have an appointment at the castle tomorrow. And they're like, do not say that name.
No,
you cannot say the name of that castle. You cannot go.
But they let him stay
because he pays double.
Right. And this is where it feels like it's happening because he just awakens because he hears something and the town is like walking through the woods with a woman who's naked. A virgin.
Yep. And it's like they're parading the naked virgin on horseback
to something.
Yeah.
And it's a casket, right? Like it's
like a grave.
Coffin,
yeah, it's like a grave, a coffin.
And they just stab this dead body with this giant stake.
Yeah.
But then as they stab it, it's like this decayed dead body kind of comes alive in order to die. Like, and like it's wild.
Vomits a ton of blood. Yeah. And then he wakes up.
Yes.
But his muddy boots.
Yes.
His muddy boots.
So it's like it feels, he's like, oh, it was a dream. But no,
I feel like there are multiple, is this a dream? Is it a memory?
There's a lot of that.
I feel like you could argue most of the movie, none of it was a dream. Right. I think
so.
Most of it really felt like Ellen's felt like memories at the end, like after you realize, what's happening. And like, I feel like most of it's like, it's that idea of like a dream, but I think most of it we assume happened.
And it's cool because for the audience, they're always introduced as just the next thing that's happening.
Oh, yeah.
Like we never know it's a dream until they're awoken.
Until they wake up and then they're like, wait, what?
Yep. Yeah.
And then we have, I think, my favorite. I have two favorite scenes in the movie, but this was the one that just stood out to me. It's Tom continues on, and he is just walking, and it is such a dark scene, like visually dark, but it seems black and white, and it's kind of snowing, and he's just on this dark road that's like surrounded by mountains, and there's an intersection, and as he's walking, it's just so pretty.
Yes.
And spooky.
Yes. It's just like this tree, it's completely covered by trees.
So there's not much snow actually even getting through.
Yeah, no, but just a tiny little bit.
Flurries of snow.
And it was at this point, and also it was silent. So he's walking, and it's silent. And we were in the luxury theater, which at this point, someone decided, I gotta go pee. So you hear them push their seat, and the seat goes, like it was the longest.
The seats in this theater were obscene. Larry H. Miller, do better.
Yeah,
like put some WD-40 on that. Like
and
it's terrible.
It was just like this scene is dead.
Like
silent.
come on.
You could wait 10 seconds for this to end. Like, you didn't have to go right now.
Yeah, but they did. They had to go. So that was pretty funny.
Yeah, that scene was beautiful. Again, that was just like full like fantasy as you were watching it.
Yeah. Oh,
like,
it was.
It was, yeah, completely surreal, very like fantastical.
Mm-hmm. Yep. But yeah, then we see like the cool, kind of that classic shot of, as he's in that intersection, a carriage comes up and the carriage is going to take him then the rest of the way. Mm-hmm. And so then we see that classic shot of like the carriage going up the windy road to the castle on the hill. And it was so cool.
Yeah.
We hear this booming once he gets inside, like, you are late.
So
he's very mad.
Very.
And he's immediately terrified. Like, I feel like
as you should be.
I mean, he already was so unsettled from his like experience in town.
Well, because when he woke up, the town had just disappeared.
Yeah, and nobody was around.
Oh,
including his horse. That's why he had to walk.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, like, it was already like, this is uneasy.
But then, so then the count sits him down and is like, let's go over the contract right now. And then here, eat and drink. And then he pours him some wine. Nice. So
spooky audio effects.
So we can talk about what we're sipping on. It's a repeat,
but it's a goodie.
It's for a reason.
It's a repeat though because it's kind of a repeated concept.
Yes.
Because while they are sort of different stories, they're
from the same
inspiration.
World.
Yes. Well, and as both my husband and his dad were telling us, I love that they both shared the same fun fact.
I know.
Before we went to the movie. When Nosferatu was originally released, they got into a lot of copyright issues because, as you may notice while watching the movie, it takes deep inspiration from Dracula.
Yes.
It's like the same story with slightly different years.
Just call him Dracula.
Yeah.
It's not actually. There's a lot of, I'm just being facetious.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like,
Yeah, it's a very similar story. And so a judge ruled in the creator of Dracula's favor and ordered all copies of Nosferatu to be destroyed. Luckily they weren't. There were very few. I think it was literally like a couple copies left. And that's why we still get the movie. But I feel like it makes sense that we repeat our wine.
Yes, we have to.
That. We have another vampire wine.
Yes, we're sipping on vampire.
And I honestly don't know how you couldn't rule in their favor.
No,
because
it's fair.
while after now having watched Nosferatu, I liked it. I found myself confused. I was like, wait, there's two characters that are kind of taking the place of Renfield character and Dracula. Is this not the same? Is his name not Dracula?
Well, no.
I was so confused.
Yes, because I had the same thing. Because when he got to the castle and he called him something, I was like, why aren't they saying Count Dracula?
Why aren't they saying Dracula?
And I was like, oh, because that's not this movie.
Why aren't they saying Renfield? But it's because it's just a copy. It's such a ripoff, actually.
It's, heavily inspired by.
It's like Dracula. It's a darker version.
It is. Yeah, it is a different take on it.
It is.
I feel like a lot of the story elements are
and
similar.
like our dad said, like, how did he phrase it? He was like, he's not as what did he call it? Like, he's not as sway as Dracula.
Oh, yeah,
he doesn't have the same
he's not as
je ne sais quoi as Dracula.
He didn't say charismatic, but that's what he was getting
at.
Like,
exactly.
He's not as charming. Like,
charming. That was the word. He's not as charming.
Oh, definitely
as
not. This is a different vampire.
Because Dracula is very like, oh, I'm the host. Let me entertain you.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's Bela Lugosi or whatever.
And he doesn't become a bat.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, we don't see
that. He's just a monster all the time.
Yeah. But like the way he moves, like you get the idea that he can like kind of like glide very quickly.
Human movement.
Yeah.
Whoa. Whoa.
Yes.
Busting out the vocabulary.
We're gonna make a soundbite out of that one.
At this point, like Tom, he wakes up, he's got bite marks.
Yes. On his chest.
There's a very sexual scene of Dracula, like, sucking some blood out of Tom.
It really is. Like, he straddles.
He's
like he rides him.
Like, it's...
Well, and also he doesn't. I mean, again, typical vampire. They go for like the neck, right?
Yes.
They try to suck from there
for the
heart.
It's the heart. Like it's
yes.
It's like he just bites down directly on the heart.
Well, because there will later be a sex scene, which we'll talk about because I have opinions.
Oh yeah.
But she asks Thomas to kiss her on the heart.
Mm-hmm.
They're like doing it, and she's like, "Kiss me on the heart."
Yeah,
and I was like, "Whoa!"
Yeah,
which like he did.
It's more intimate this way, where it's like
it really is.
The neck is like okay, you can easily get to that. The chest,
no, it's an entire experience.
It's very sexual. So Tom is like, then he can't tell if like that's really happening or a dream, but he's like, I'm sick, I want to go, and I was going to say Dracula.
Yeah,
the count is like, no.
The Lord.
He's like, no, you can't go.
Mm-hmm.
Tom finds the room of coffins.
Yes. And then we get to the scene where like he has to sign the paperwork finally. Like he's finally like, okay, here's the paperwork.
Yeah.
And this was the thing where I was like, I wonder if it's not in a language that he can read because it really didn't seem like
it wasn't.
It wasn't.
Okay. I was going to say it seemed like he just was like,
I think he said like I translated it into the language of my people.
Okay. Yeah. He was like, oh, this is my language. Mm-hmm.
So, which like, I mean, I think all of us were like, don't sign that fucking thing.
But he's like, I really got to go. Like, because meanwhile, then, and there's it seems like there's a loving connection between Tom and Ellen.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And meanwhile, we're seeing Ellen is deteriorating.
Oh, real bad.
She's unwell.
Yeah, she's over there, and like, I will say, actually, I think her friends at first were trying to.
They were.
Because they were like, what is happening?
Yeah.
Because it is like she's possessed every night.
Mm-hmm. I love that the cure is, first of all, tighten her corset.
Yes.
Yeah.
Corset.
Let's put a corset on.
Because when you're sleeping, you want a tighter corset to make you more confined and stop the madness.
The corset.
Tighten her corset and give her more ether.
Yeah. No.
Because
keep knocking her out.
And again, there's just so many like tangents with this movie. So it's fine. This is going to be a 4.5 hour episode. Yeah, it's fine. But it's interesting because they make a point, the doctor, because they finally call a doctor, and they make a point that she has too much blood. And that's a real thing because I looked it up because in Little Women, which is an amazing movie, I'm talking the 90s version.
They're both good.
No, they are, but the 90s holds my heart. But the sister Beth is dying, and there's a scene where the doctor is like, I would bleed her, but it would end her. So I looked it up. That was a huge thing. That was a real medical thought, was that when people were ill like this,
get the infected blood out.
Get the blood out. There's either too much or get the infected out. So they would literally just put in lines and just let them bleed, almost to the point of bleeding out. And I thought that was really interesting because I was like, that's so. Now we hear it as archaic, but like it really was
now.
The practice.
No, totally.
Who knew?
Yeah. No, she's going through it. They've gotten to just like tying her up to the bed and knocking her out.
And she's having seizures left and right. Because that's the other thing. It's like, yeah, she's possessed, but it also, I'm thinking of it from a, just historical kind of psychological medical standpoint. I'm like, this poor woman is just seizing. Yeah. And they're just like.
She even says that she had epilepsy.
Yeah. But also, and the way she is seizing is very sexual.
It's aggressive.
It's just like, damn, girl.
Yeah.
And so then we see a scene of, at the time I did not realize was the boss. Yes. Was Canuck. We see this old man who we know is a servant to the Dark Lord because he tells everyone that will listen.
He really loves talking about it.
And he's like, we find him because they're like, oh, he was like eating sheep alive. Like he was just like eating them raw.
Yeah.
And so they kind of like lock him up, and the doctor goes to check him out, and he's got all these like dead rats. It reminded me of Hellraiser. So he's got all these dead rats, and then but then he like the scene, he's got this like beautiful little pigeon.
Just beautiful pigeon.
Well, and he talks about, the Count loves beauty. He likes to like eat and destroy the beautiful things. And so he's like petting this pigeon. It's very is that the movie of Grapes of Wrath? Is that the movie where like the man like kills the little pigeon. Okay, cut that part out.
No, okay, first of all, I've never seen that, but I can never hear you talk about that movie and not think about Gilbert because when we were young, I genuinely asked Laura, like, I don't even remember the context, but I like didn't understand why someone was eating this kid's grapes.
Oh.
And the movie is called What's Eating Gilbert's Grape? Gilbert Grape. But I thought, like, who's eating Gilbert's grapes?
Who's eating the grapes?
So his last name, no, his name was Grape, not.
Who's eating Gilbert's grapes?
But who's eating the grapes?
Just let the boy have the grapes.
Buy more grapes.
We're gonna cut all this shit out.
No.
But anyways, so I don't know if you guys could hear him, but this was the only point that anyone in the theater made an actual like human noise. But Trace just went, blah.
Yeah, it was gross.
Okay, and again, just building tension, right? Like that pigeon scene is you see him holding the pigeon, talking about beautiful things, and then he like leans into it and he like kisses it.
And that was when Trace was like, blah.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, because at that point I thought he had taken a bite of the pigeon, but no, he had just like kissed it. So then it was like, oh, I'm relieved he didn't kill the pigeon. And then just kidding, bites off the pigeon's head.
Yeah, this is something that we were talking about. The word anticipation, I feel like, is in this movie because like so many scenes were filmed that way. Like we're just waiting.
Yes.
We as the audience are watching the buildup of the, reveal of what's to happen. And even that moment, like a lot of like anticipation.
Yes. And I mean, we get Ellen and what is his boss's name again? Canuck. Both of them keep saying he's coming.
Yes,
like that is the one thing they both keep repeating.
Yes.
Like, it's just like he's coming, he's coming. So it's like they are literally telling us like, "Yup, he's coming." The entire movie.
Also, okay, I don't know why they're not at all the same story. They're not at all similar. But for some reason, I was confusing Grapes of Wrath and Of Mice and Men. Of Mice and Men is the book, but then they turned into a movie where there's this guy, Lenny, and he's like this big guy, and he like loves the little animal so much, but then he loves it so much he like kills it.
Yeah, I have never seen either of those.
Oh, classic. Yeah. Classic. It's upsetting, but it's good. Yeah. It's good. Anyway.
Tangent.
Honestly, I don't think we've talked about anything relevant for the last 45 minutes, but it's fine.
We talked about pigeons.
So, okay, he please.
Yeah, it's like at this point, everyone is coming back together.
Yes.
Thomas has left and is coming back to his wife.
And he was healed, at least mostly healed by the nuns who were like, you're not completely healed yet.
Because they like found him by a riverbank.
And they like brought him back. So he's headed back. The Count, we see a cargo crate on a ship. He's coming back. And the cinematography of the ocean scene was beautiful.
It was so pretty. Yes. It was so pretty.
And with him is a plague.
A plague of rats.
A plague of rats.
They're just bringing, like, so people on the ship are dying. And we also know, like, one of the reasons why Tom left, like, the nuns who'd been healing him, even though they said he wasn't ready yet, is because he just knows somehow. He knows that the Count is after Ellen. Like because the Count took the locket that she'd given with the hair. So he's like, he's after my boo. Yeah, I gotta go.
And now, the man what is the name of the guy they were staying with? What was his name? Whatever his name was.
Yeah.
Him and the doctor had kind of realized, like, you know what, this isn't working. So they found someone he knew, an old professor that went mad.
This is what I call they call upon the Swiss alchemist.
Yes.
Who was into the occult.
Yes. And this is our friend William Dafoe.
I think it's Friedrich. Is the
Friedrich. Okay, the French Friedrich. And he's pretty skeptical.
Yes.
He's kind of doing it because he basically, you get the sense that he's like, just fix this girl so she can be quiet.
Like, she's staying in my house and she's causing all this ruckus.
Can you just get this dealt with? But he's going along to try to like speed that because, you know, his wife is pregnant. He has 2 young daughters. Yeah. Like the scenes that they were like making her go crazy. I was like, the kids are just there in the other room. Like, I don't know if that was my house guest. Yeah. I would either make her or my children leave.
I mean, like Friedrich gets a bit impatient with Ellen, but again, this was a 6-week journey.
And it's just getting worse and worse.
It's getting worse. And she is going through a lot. And like, he's like, oh, I'll spare no expense for her to get like the healthcare that she needs, like bring them to the house. Like these are quite supportive friends.
I have to say, I don't fault him in the slightest.
No.
But
also like just the friendship, because we haven't talked about her friend like as much, but like their friendship is so like at one point she's just like, thank you for your love, you know, and it's like you do get like I love the friendship that
I loved it too. Like they were so supportive, because even you can tell like the friend is and what was her name? Was it Annie or something?
No,
I think it was Annie. Like Anna.
Oh, Anna.
They called her Annie.
Because you can tell, you know, she has her 2 little girls. She's pregnant.
It's Christmas.
It's Christmas time.
Oh yeah, it's a Christmas movie.
And she's scared for a friend. She wants to be supportive, but she's also like, you can tell, she's scared. She doesn't know what to do.
And
like,
she's kind of like, I just want to have Christmas with my kids.
Like, can you just chill?
Yeah, can you chill, please?
I feel like when all this is going down, there is one of the lines that I really liked from this movie is Ellen says, she's trying to question like what this healing is going to do for her. And she says, does evil come from within us or beyond?
I love. Yes.
And that was a good line. Really.
I love that line.
But this occult doctor comes in and he's trying to like show the friends. He's trying to show like, Anna and whatever Friedrich. He's like, look, this is real. This is not some girl just like having, you know, fits or whatever. And so he stabs her through the wrist.
Yes.
And he's like, look,
while she's in her like state,
her trance state.
Yeah.
And he's like, look, watch it. She'll feel nothing. And I'm like, that's a risky move.
Yeah, it's like
you didn't have to go. You could have just poked her a little.
Yeah, and you do see like the other doctors start like treating, like as soon as he did, I was like, okay, but she's gonna feel that later, right?
Right.
Yeah, you could have just poked her.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a little dramatic, but
I like it though. Then he's asking her, you know, like, well, what's going on? What do you see? And so the way she kind of is explaining what she sees, it's again so poetic. It's so beautifully, like, just kind of the dialogue written.
Yeah.
But then she starts to freak out. She does her wheel exorcism.
The full bend.
It was like full on The Exorcist movement happening. Her voice changed.
Yes, the like full possession when she changes her voice was so good. Like that was good.
So and then the occult man is saying like, you got to stop knocking her out. Don't give her any more ether. She's got to feel it. And then the husband is like, he's like, but then she'll rave all night. And so the occult guy says, well, then rave she must.
Yes.
And I was like, that's a really good line. Like,
rave she must.
She'll rave all night? Well, then rave she must.
I loved Willem Dafoe's character in this. He was great in this.
He was great.
So then Thomas is back. And she knows.
She knows, and she's like, he's back.
Yeah, she runs out
here.
to the street. And once he's back, like, her fits have subsided. She's not having seizures. She's not having the dreams. Like, she is back to herself.
Yeah.
But Thomas is having nightmares where he'll like, at one point he like throws her off of him, like, get off of him.
Because he's like seeing
these like horrifying images of his wife.
Yes. Because when
hooking up with
when he was being attacked by the Count earlier, it flashes to it being her.
Yes. Again, she's got this face. It's in the trailer. It's really good. You can see where she's like crying blood and yeah.
So when that's happening, also the ship, the plague ship crashes, like
is obliterated.
Yeah,
and you just see all these plague rats just like infesting the town.
Storming the town.
But then Canuck is really excited because he's like, his lordship is here. So he like kills a guard and like escapes
to get out.
His little mental cell. And I also really liked that throughout a lot of this part of the movie, there was this big debate between science and like the idea of the occult.
I use the word spiritual not as like
I think
God, but like just this other realm, because he even talks about like the other realms at one point. So it's like the
he talks
supernatural.
He talks about the world being like protected by angels and demons.
Like the supernatural.
And then we get this confrontation between Ellen and Count Orlok, where I think it's because she leaves the bedroom with Thomas because he like thinks that, you know, she's a demon or whatever. And then she goes to stay with her friend. And there's that sweet moment. But then, he shows up in the room and just the chemistry between them, the tension between them. At one point she talks about like, you know, kind of their relationship and their feelings toward each other. And she says something about like, you know, your appetite for me or blah, blah, blah. And he goes, I am an appetite. Like he's not a person. He's not a demon. He's an appetite. That's what he is. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah. They get like moments where they're very close to each other physically. But he basically lets her know like she has 3 nights because how it works is she must submit herself again to him. Yeah. He can't just go kidnap her. Like she has to be like, yes. And he's going to give her 3 nights, but like he's going to kill people.
Yeah. But he says like, I'm going to take your loved ones every night.
Every single night.
Every night that you don't say, you don't submit to me, it's going to be bad.
And it's her friend Annie that's the first night. Right?
Yeah. So she wakes up to...
Yeah, she wakes up and she's on the bottom of the bed, like she fell off, and he's not there, the count that we can see. We see a lot of shadows at this point. We're starting to see like his hand, like there's a scene where his hand outstretches.
Oh, that's
shadows. With the shadows.
Yes, that scene was so cool.
And so like in this scene, we see like his shadowed hand like going up the curtain or something.
Yes.
But she's being eaten by rats.
And again, very sexual sounds she's making as
and it's like just her chest. And so Annie doesn't die right away, but she's plagued.
She's not doing well. They kind of blame it on the plague, but clearly hers is the vampire, not the plague. But then the whole town is just losing it. This is when I kind of noted that the streets are just filled with dead people, rats, and poop.
Yes.
And dogs eating the dead people.
And it's like they have like carts that they're like trying to put the dead on, but it's like, I mean, the town is being destroyed.
Because we should say at some point randomly earlier in the movie, the doctor and the occult guy had seen a corpse that had the same markings that they're blaming the plague in quotes on, but the body is dry of blood. And so that's like what it's like, well, that's not a plague symptom.
Like, this is different from your regular
but then she dies. Annie dies.
Well, I think before
was it the next night?
I think before she I think before she dies, we have a really important scene we need to talk about where Ellen confesses to Tom
yes, everything
that she knows the Count.
Yeah. And in fact, she called for something because she was so lonely in her childhood.
Because she had these abilities that her dad didn't like or was scared of, and was like, okay, we're just going to lock you up in a room and not have you hang out with anyone.
So she was like really lonely. But I really liked the scene because it was so confusing for me, which of course it would be confusing for Tom. She goes back and forth between being like this sweet, but kind of weird wife that he knows and loves, and then being like super mean
and almost like the bride of the Count. Like, this is my man. The Count is mine. You suck. Like,
So like between being possessed and sweet, and she's just going back and forth, and then she has this seizure where she's just like spitting.
It's not even. It's like the giant spit comes out of her mouth.
Gross.
And then she's like crawling
to him,
and then she's like wrapped around his leg. And I don't remember exactly what does she say exactly. She's like, "You could never please me as he did."
That's exactly what she says, I think.
And then very quickly, they're having sex.
Which I think I legit like. I was like, I was so confused. I started looking around. I was like, what?
Me too.
Wait, whoa, what?
Because it's very there. Yes, there's been a sexual undertone, but so far there hasn't been any actual like sex. And it's just very.
It just happens.
Aggressive and.
But again, it's weird because at some points it goes where I'm like, oh, is this like an assault?
I know,
happening?
It almost felt
and
like
I'm not sure who's the assaulter or who's the assaultee. But then I'm also like, oh, but then she at sometimes is saying things like, show him our love.
Yes.
So it's like they're showing off for the count, but also
like,
then
love,
to show him like, no, our relationship is real.
Yes. And then he sees her as the bloodied, crying.
Yes.
And that like freaks him out and he jumps back.
No, this scene was so chaotic. Like, it was so confusing.
Yeah.
It worked because I think the characters are confused and go through it. But like watching it was like straight up like taking honestly. I felt like a little sleepy through like the middle. Not because it was a bad movie.
No, right.
Because it was just like a little bit like slower.
Soothing.
So slow burn. It was so soothing. And that scene, I was like, okay, I'm awake and confused.
Yep. No, totally. But then,
well, and here's what's so sad is that like with the little girls, because all throughout the movie, the little girls always like want their dad to put them to sleep because there's monsters.
Yes. Like, Daddy, there's monsters.
And it's true, it's monsters.
I love this. It's really early, and I think it was like one of the first scenes with little girls where it's like, oh, Daddy, like, Papa, there's monsters. And he's like, come stab it.
Yeah,
stab the monster.
Stab him.
He should have.
But then, we see it, and he's in the nursery, and it's a very, like, silhouetted scene.
But then before he goes in there, we see the parents' room, and he like waves his fingers and it's like, do not wake up, like lay asleep.
Yeah, he makes the dad impossible to wake up
because the mom hears it.
Yeah, she hears it. She tries to wake her husband, and he won't.
Nope.
So she runs in there, and we just see the silhouette. He's at the window, and he's like, one girl is crumpled on the floor, and the other he's holding. Yeah, and then he throws the body down. Oh.
And then we just see these little, and then one, adult-sized casket and two child-sized caskets being taken out, which, man, they're quick with their funerals.
I know. That was, I was like, okay.
I was like, they wouldn't have a funeral like the next day, early in the day, too.
I mean, he was rich, so I guess.
Honestly, but also, if you're worried about plague, like, you got to get those people out.
Yeah. No, and I feel like that showed, like, their wealth, too. Because, again, we saw bodies on the street being carted off.
And they do mention
and it was
his
like,
wealth.
Yeah, it's like, no, he had, like, a proper funeral with, like, very nice caskets.
They were so tall.
Like, so tall. Like, they were like ornate.
Two-story caskets.
You're not going to feel claustrophobic in there.
No.
And they take it to this, what is it called when it's like the building where all the dead family members
go?
Not
a mausoleum.
No, I was thinking
crypt.
The crypt.
Yeah. Like in New Orleans, how they have all of them.
Yeah, like the family tomb.
Yeah,
is it
not mausoleum?
Is it a mausoleum?
That sounds like it.
It could be a mausoleum. I wanted to say mausoleum as well. So you're not wrong.
For families together, no, family tomb. Google. Yeah, it's a mausoleum.
Okay, yeah. So, and it was. I think it's Ellen that says, I can't cry because I have no more no more tears to cry anymore, because her best friend and her like essentially kind of her nieces in how do you say that, like in practice if not in
person? I mean her unborn nephew, I guess.
Her like essentially her nieces, even though it's because it's just her friend or whatever. But
at this point they're like, all right, it's fucking happening.
Yeah, and it's the plan to defeat
Here we go.
Yeah, and Friedrich is losing it.
Yeah,
he is full. And which he goes through it.
Right, they had like planned for him to come on their journey, but instead he went to the mausoleum and like laid with his wife.
And you could tell he had the plague.
Yeah, he had the plague.
He had already.
So they like had found him because they went to go get him, because the men had all decided we're going to go get him. So it was like the doctor, William Dafoe, Thomas, and Friedrich, but he was missing. So they went to go see him, and they found him dead. So they burned him, because that's what you're supposed to do.
But before that, so he goes into the tomb and he's just like crying over his little girls, and then he takes the wife out, and he just kisses her, and he goes to lay to die on her, which honestly is so sweet, because like he knew he was gonna die. He's like, I might as well be die snuggling my wife.
Yeah.
Like,
again, romance in like the big, like it's a romantic movie at the end of the day.
But we had seen earlier that, what's his name? William Dafoe.
Oh my god, I know, I forget his actual.
I just called him Dr. Defoe the whole time.
Dr. Defoe.
It's
Mr. Defoe.
Albin Eberhardt.
Oh, I'm not gonna call him. That's Dr. Defoe.
Wait, it's Albin Eberhard von Franz.
They never called him that.
It's Dr. Defoe.
Dr. Defoe for sure.
So they had all like been in the carriage deciding their plan, and she asked if she could walk him to the door.
Yeah.
And they basically were both like, it's got to be you.
Yeah.
Like, you're the only one. Because here's what my question was. Was it like, is Nosferatu the spirit that possesses a body? Or was Nosferatu this being? Because basically he's saying the only way to rid the world of Nosferatu is that she must submit herself and lay with him, which means like doing the dirty before the cock crows.
Before the cock crows on the third day.
So the word Nosferatu means vamp, like translates to vampire. So I think that was just
he is just a vampire.
Yeah, I think that's just him calling him a vampire.
So he's not like the only vampire. It's just he is one that they want to rid the world of.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
And he had seen the book that he had found where, you know, we see that it's like, oh yeah, the virgin has to sacrifice herself for it. So yeah.
So yeah, that's what he diverts Thomas, and he's like, "Let's go get him. Bring your stake to kill him. Come on, you're doing so good.
Destroy his coffin.
I'm so proud of you. Let's go." And Ellen is preparing herself.
So she's getting all pretty. She's letting her hair down.
Yes,
puts flowers in her hair.
Which meanwhile, okay, I know it's like from the back. The hairstyles of this time period are super cute, right? Like it's these cool like braids, and you take like two small parts of like your hair up at the front, and you braid them, and you like bring them back.
Flowers.
So from the back, super cute. From the front, they just look like they have these little nubs.
Yeah,
of, like hair.
Is good.
It makes me think of like George Washington.
Yes, it's not cute.
Right.
It's not cute. I mean, it is what it is.
Right.
But yeah,
so they're fun.
So Tom goes and they like find this casket.
Yeah. And it's not him, it's Reinhardt.
The room is just full of rats.
Oh yes, like you cannot
step down. Like they all have to take a second for me, like, okay, let's go.
Yeah, like it's rampant.
So the boys make their way over.
They're so brave.
And Thomas stabs him like all quick. But it wasn't the Count in there.
It was his lackey.
Yeah.
It was Canuck.
Which, you know, I don't know. He probably deserved to die too. So, you know.
Yeah. And at this point, Thomas is like, oh, shit. Okay. Ellen's. She's doing it with him right now, isn't she?
Yeah.
And she was like,
it's like Dr. Defoe knew about it. Like, he knows.
So he's like, yeah, man.
They're running.
Yes.
Back. And now we can cut to Ellen's scene.
It's a beautiful scene.
She is dressed as a bride. So she's got the veil on. She's got the flowers in her hair. The lavender, because he really liked the lavender that she did. And
he goes through the like questions of like, oh, like, do you do this by your own free will? And she says, I do. She like leads him to the bed.
She leads him to the bed. She takes off all her clothes.
And
it's vampire style.
It's
sensual.
It is sensual.
The way she pushes her fingers into the little knobs on his back.
That's what we're saying. Like it's because his whole body is gnarled.
Yeah,
he's not a man. Like it's a humpback. Gnarled situation.
Zombie.
Even his mouth, we see in his mouth, and he's got like rows of teeth. Like it's not a normal guy. But she
seems real into it.
She's having a good time there. Like she's getting hers.
And then he starts to drink her blood, and it's like the bite that he does again, like onto like her heart, like the chest right above her heart. It's just so graphic.
Yeah.
And he's drinking it, and then the sun starts to come out, and you can tell he's like, oh, I should probably bounce.
Like, right. He you know, let's go.
Yep.
And like, you see all like the blood and like the flesh. And like, she's so weak, and she's like, oh no, just a little more.
Oh, hold me, baby.
Yeah.
And he can't resist her because he it's not that he loves her.
But he is enamored.
Yes.
Yeah. So he's like, well, like my wife just told me I gotta keep going. Got to keep going. Right. So the sun is burning me, but I better do what she wants.
Yeah. And we hear like the rooster crows.
Yes,
like
crow.
it's morning. The sun is fully out, sun shining. That's when he realizes he's in trouble.
And they're kind of like in the hallway. They're like on the
I know,
they're almost there.
This is when poor Tom, you just see him running, like he's trying to save his wife, and
and by the time they get there, his body, which has like started to rapidly decay, so he just kind of becomes this like withered. You know, like Voldemort when he's in the first Harry Potter, it's like that. You know?
And like his eyes are just gushing blood too. Like that was so cool.
Yeah. And
you can see that she's gone, and so Thomas like closes her eyes
because she is just dead under this demon.
Yeah, no, he's
just laying on top of her.
Do this like aerial shot from above, and her legs are spread, and he's between them, and there's just blood everywhere, but there's also flowers
that Dr. Defoe has started like putting out,
laying on
the bed. And he has such, again, like endings are so hard.
It's great.
But like he has this like monologue where he's giving us the end of the story, like Willem Dafoe.
He's reading the last chapter.
He's reading us the end as it's happened and like what she did. And like it's like this is it. Like the end, he goes and he grabs the little cat, Greta.
Puts the flowers this is where I wrote this. Yeah, this is where I wrote Greta's chilling.
No, Greta's chilling.
She gives zero fucks. She just watched her mom get murdered. She's like, doesn't care.
Cool.
Like it's not to be like like it's they tie up like in like a fairy tale, but like it felt like a
romantic.
story.
It feels like a story.
Yeah, it felt like the end of the story. And close the book, end of the chapter.
And that's it.
Credits.
So I just feel like I'm going to be just processing and thinking about this movie because it wasn't heavy-handed.
No,
like a lot of movies are. It just kind of gave you some information and you do with it what you will.
Yes.
I really liked it.
I will say one of the only things that I saw about it was that like, and again, like online space is such a love-hate area because it can be toxic AF, right? But a lot of people like commented because there's full frontal male nudity. You see a penis, which you don't usually.
It's prosthetic.
Yeah, I figured.
Okay.
In case you were wondering.
I was going to say, I have opinions about that in a second, but I actually will say, I do not feel like they did nudity, like just superfluous nudity in this. And I actually like that there was both male and female because we don't get that a lot. Like it's usually just the girls.
Right. Yeah, no, you get that. And honestly, I feel like we've already talked about it. It's not superfluous. It adds to it, and like at no point did I enjoy it.
Yeah, it never felt like it was for the gays.
Like voyeurism.
Right,
like it was like it was literally like it actually did help with the story.
I meant gaze as in like GAZE
as in eye gaze
for the gays.
Like for the gays.
Yeah.
Like, but I guess it could have been, either way.
No, but I agree because I feel like it was done in a way to kind of just show like the raw nakedness of the situation and the emotions. It wasn't about arousal. It was about like you woke up this demon and here he is with his penis is right there because
why would he have fucking pants on?
Right. Or like as the woman has been attacked by the rats or whatever, her one breast happens to come free. Like it wasn't it wasn't like
natural to the moment.
It was more their sounds and their movements that were sexual.
Those were another.
For that, I found myself conflicted because it was sometimes kind of enjoyable.
Yeah, the sound engineer should get a bonus because he did a good job.
I feel like we haven't talked about the music. The music is really
beautiful.
Well, it adds again to the whole like romantic. It didn't feel like the typical like like the Halloween music, like the psycho music where it's like like you have horror that's like building because like Jaws, stuff like that. Like it really was more romantic.
It was almost easier. That you didn't really even notice it. Like it was so
you felt it
in the scene that it wasn't like a soundtrack in quotes.
Yes.
Totally.
Oh, what a good movie. This was a fun one.
And I wasn't expecting it to be Christmas time in the movie. So I will say I enjoyed that little tie-in to the season.
I noticed the Christmas tree.
Let's talk about the Christmas tree.
Well, because that's how they did Christmas
I know,
trees.
but can you imagine how many homes burned down? They just put little
candles.
They just put little
Fires were wild.
What do you call those types of
Tapers?
candles? Taper candles at the edge of the branches.
Yeah.
Like
No,
what?
yeah. No, yeah. I noticed that because I was like, wait, are those candles? But I noticed the Christmas tree. I was like, wait, is it supposed to be Christmas? And they call it out. Yeah, it's Christmas time.
And my favorite thing is like in the olden days, and I don't know years because I'm not a historian. But like the way the fire department worked is like you had to pay for it, and you would only get it if you paid. So you have.
Well, they were rich.
So no, I know, but like, what about your neighbors?
Fuck them.
Yeah, they should have paid.
Wild. But yes, it was Christmas time.
Yeah.
Which was cute.
That scene made me just think about how, because I like candles, but my sweet husband, he likes everything to be off
and he's
safe.
A safety conscious.
He's a
man.
safety. So I was just thinking, because sometimes I'll fall asleep and there's a candle on, and so he'll blow it out for me, or But I just thought, oh, my poor husband would have not been able to tolerate being alive at this time, because those candles on that tree, he would just be like, "We're not doing Christmas. We can't do it." Like,
okay, so is it a good time for some psychoanalysis?
Let's do it.
And I'm assuming we're going to throw in some dream analysis as well.
That's the bulk.
Yes. All right, here we go, baby. Just remember, these weren't real dreams. And she's not a real doctor, but you're going to get her take anyway. So here we go.
So yeah, because we just watched this movie, I didn't do a lot of prep. So the psych's a little light. And also, I'm going to depart from our trusty dream book.
Okay. I mean, that's fair because like this would be wild if these things were in there.
Well, some of it is in there, but I just wanted a little bit more of a comprehensive take. So I did refer a little bit more to the internet for this dream analysis, but I am amazed at how much of them all lead back to the same thing.
Oh, okay. I'm excited now.
Yeah.
So there's a few things that happened in the dreams. The first one of note was, I thought when Ellen told the dream to her newlywed husband of, I dreamt that I was marrying you, but it wasn't you. You were death. I was marrying this death shadow. So if you dream of marrying death, so marriage and death, both of them represent significant transitions and transformations in your life. So if a person dreams that they're marrying death, that could symbolize emotional detachment. So I think that this is kind of symbolic of the fact that Ellen, it's not that she doesn't love Tom.
No.
She loves Tom, but this is a long-standing relationship she has with the Count. And I feel like this is her way of processing. She could not fully commit to Tom because of her connection to Count Orlok.
Yeah. I mean, she said she was his lover.
Yes.
Like they had a connection, and then she moved on to Thomas.
Yes.
But
and she wanted to be able to leave it. But she couldn't.
She couldn't.
Exactly. So it can indicate that there's this end of one phase of your life and a beginning of another. So this dream is her showing that, my marriage to you, Tom, I know it's going to end. Like you're going to, because she even mentioned, like, I know you're going to, he's already got the job. Yes. Like, even though he was going to go on this interview with the guy, she's like, no, you already have it and you're going to leave. So she knew this phase of my life where, because I was with Nosferatu and things were dark, but then I could leave that all behind to marry Tom, because Tom took away that pain. He took away that darkness for a bit. She knows that phase of my life is over. So, but if you marry death in your dream, it can also symbolize that you accept what's happening. So you accept this like all coming together of the unknown, of your mortality, and aspects of yourself that are typically feared or repressed. So these dark things going on in Ellen, she's finally accepting, you know what, for better or worse, there's parts of me that is kind of into this like dark Nosferatu thing.
Yeah.
He gave me connection when I needed one. So it can indicate this readiness to confront your fears or embrace these big life changes.
Oh, and this is like right at the beginning of the movie.
Yes.
So like this is that really foreshadows.
Yes.
And the fact that she's so insistent, but I was happy. I was happier than I've ever been in my whole life.
Yeah.
That is showing that she really, a part of her is ready to accept this darkness in her and this transition.
Yeah.
So that's what that one means.
Oh, that's a good one.
I mean, that tracks.
So there's also a lot of talk of shadows in this movie, and that is he a demon or is he just the shadow?
Yeah,
many
I feel
times.
like we definitely get the like he's a shadow. Like he's
So a shadow in a dream represents aspects of your psyche that are unknown or repressed. So it's like parts of you that you don't want out, that you don't want to like own. Yeah. They're coming to light. So the dark sides of Ellen, the dark sides of Tom, like that's what's coming out.
Like now that you like say, it's like, oh yeah, I guess I've never noticed shadows in a dream.
Yeah.
Like, what a weird thing that where it's like, oh yeah, I've never thought of that.
Such a detailed part of it.
Pay attention. So it's funny because I don't know if I've talked about this on the podcast, but I used to have like horrifying lucid dreams.
Yeah.
Have I talked about that?
I don't know if I've talked about
because we both have like sleep paralysis.
Yeah, and sleep paralysis. So and what mine was is there was a shadow figure in a room. And it was in high school, it was in my bedroom in high school, and it would kind of be in the corner or be in the doorway. And it was this shadow presence. And I knew in my dream I was dreaming, and I knew I had to wake up. And the only way I can wake up is if I scream myself awake. So then someone will hear me, or my body will do the screaming so loud and that it'll wake me up.
Yeah.
Had it repeatedly. It was awful. I then moved to college. I go in my dorm room. Sure enough, the friggin' shadow demon followed me to college, because then in the dream, I woke up, and again, I'm dreaming, but like, I'm no longer in my high school bedroom. I'm in my college dorm room.
It's updated. The software has updated.
It's been multiple places. Like it follows me. And in my dream, I wake up and I'm in the place that I'm actually at. I've had it in a hotel room. I've had it in a cabin. Like I've had it like in new houses.
Follows.
It's wild.
Yeah, my worst one was when I was a senior in high school, and I actually had to go to therapy for it because I stopped sleeping. Because what was so weird about mine was it continued. It stopped and picked up where it left off. So it was like a movie. Like I would have a nightmare.
I've had that.
This is where it would stop when I woke up, and then I would fall asleep and it would start where I left off, and it would just do that every night.
Oh, whoa, that's crazy.
Yeah,
I feel like I have such a hard time remembering. Like I kind of want to get a dream journal because I feel like I remember my dreams when I wake up. Like I have that like, okay, I can like think through it, and then I just immediately forget most of them.
Well,
that's
that's by design.
Well, yeah,
human brains do that to protect you from not thinking that your hallucinations are real.
Yeah, but it's like the idea that like not only do you remember them, but then they continue. That would be so hard.
But so I'm trying to like those sleep paralysis dreams. I haven't had one maybe a year or two. They're a lot less frequent than they used to be. Yeah. But now I'm wondering, what is that aspect of myself that I am so afraid of? That is those shadows.
And like what was happening when the shadows.
Well, it's so funny because like I still get them a lot and have had them a lot recently, but like you were saying, I never am conscious of screaming. It's not like I'm thinking I should scream. It just happens. I'm screaming in it. But it's so funny because every now and then I actually do scream, right? Which scares my husband. But most of the time, it just is like, he'll hear me and I'm just going like, but in my head, I am like screaming.
Okay, so mine, Brianna, is a little different than yours because mine is I'm aware of the scream and I know the only way to get myself to wake up is if I scream and someone hears me, or if I scream loud enough it wakes me up. But I know because I'm dreaming and my body is paralyzed, I go to scream and it goes like like, but I'm like just keep trying, just keep going until you actually scream. And so I breathe weird, I sound weird, and my husband now knows, if he starts hearing me go,
yeah,
like he needs to wake me up because I'm having a nightmare.
Yep.
And so he'll like gently kind of like try to wake me up.
Yeah.
But what's really kind of cool is that the being who has saved me from my dreams most consistently is my friend's dog.
Oh,
yeah. It's Aldo.
Because dogs know.
It's Aldo. So I've had those dreams multiple times, and he comes up and he starts like walking weird and like pacing to get his mom to wake up or me to wake up, and he saves me from the dream. It's probably just because he's like, "Why are you sounding weird, girl? Be quiet. I want to sleep."
I feel like, but dogs they hear things so much better. So like if you're doing like a silent scream or breathing differently, I feel like dogs are like, no, like there's something weird happening.
What's happening to you?
Like they know.
So
wild
shadows.
Okay, sorry. Back to the show. Another dream that they have is where, again, it's hard. Like, are these dreams or are they really happening? I don't know. But in many of the quote unquote dreams people are having, they're being strangled by the demon.
Yes.
So being strangled can symbolize that you feel restricted, overwhelmed, or unable to express yourself in your waking life. You feel powerless in an upcoming decision.
I mean,
so Ellen knows what's coming.
Yeah.
She knows she's going to have to give herself up, and she has no control in this decision. So of course and even Tom, he knows his wife is going to give herself to this. And on some level, I think they kind of know
he's coming for her.
He knows he's coming for her. So I feel like that's what the strangling is that they're having. If you dream that you're stabbing a vampire.
Oh, what a specific dream.
So Tom has this dream. And so Tom is struggling to combat negative influences, aka the vampire. And he's also might be struggling with his own inner demons. Here's where I'm going to get a little psychobabbly with you all.
There we go.
I think on some level, Tom has some judgment of Ellen. And of her darkness that he is repressing. So stabbing is an attempt to eliminate toxic or draining elements of your life, or to break free from relationships, habits, or situations that have been depleting your energy or holding you back. Tom loves Ellen. I was about to say Helen. Tom loves Ellen. I think on some level, he kind of judges some of her darkness. And secrets that she's honestly been hiding from him. Like there's some parts of their own personalities that they've not fully divulged to the other one. And don't feel safe.
Yeah, you can tell that like he knows about her melancholy. But whenever she talks, it's like, let's just like not talk about that anymore. Like, let's just move on.
That's really how it was. So like, fair.
Oh yeah, it's like again, the 1800s of it all is fine. But
on some level, he kind of wants that part of her to go away. So he's trying to
let's move on.
He's kind of trying to like eliminate that toxic trait of hers. If you dream you're sacrificing a virgin or a virgin being sacrificed.
I mean, we all had that dream.
Again, this also gets back to, it relates to having inner conflicts, dealing with transitions, and the need to confront deep-seated fears and desires. It can symbolize an end of the innocence of your naivete in your own life. So like kind of these like just pretending that the bad stuff's not happening, pretending that, Ellen was not like, had not given herself up to Nosferatu a long time ago. Or feeling pressured to give up something valuable. So I feel like Tom is the one that had that dream. He feels this pressure, to like save the world or like himself, like he's going to have to give up Ellen to do it.
Interesting.
It can also, again, relate back to just this transition and rebirth. So the crying blood that we see happening. So Tom views Ellen as crying blood. Ellen views the demon as crying blood. You are experiencing intense emotional pain.
Well, that's,
profound grief.
Yeah.
And significant inner turmoil.
All fair.
This can also maybe even allude back to some unresolved past conflict. So like Tom is conflicted about knowing that Ellen has been hiding this part of her past from him.
Yeah.
And this loss of innocence. So yeah, Tom is just losing her. He is very like sad for him. And it's just this turmoil of like, he loves her, but also like maybe on some level, he kind of is like, whew,
yeah.
all right,
which is like a wife,
crazy
like
wife.
a regular wife.
Yeah.
And so those are the dream analysis.
Wow.
No, those are good. And
Like,
they tie
it
in
makes
so
sense.
well.
It all makes sense, right? And I looked up these not in relation to how they were in Nosferatu, just what these would mean in general.
Yeah. Okay, wait. Now I have a question about the movie. I feel like one thing I'm trying to like figure out is, so Thomas gets attacked, right, by the Count. He bites him multiple times because he has like the multiple stab like on his chest. And then later, when they're talking to Friedrich, he's like, oh, you know, this is real. This is what's happening. And he like shows it to him. It's like, oh, but he's okay. So there's, why is he okay?
They did a quick little get out of jail free card with that.
With the nuns.
Yeah.
Oh, the nuns.
The nuns healed him.
Okay, yes.
Because I thought the same thing. And then I was like, oh, that's right. The nuns. Like,
they threw
the
that
nuns,
line in there real fast when they're coming up with the plan to get him in the cab or the coach or whatever.
The nuns.
Yes.
I just completely forgot about that.
No, I guess.
That's why he's okay. Yep. Yeah.
Get the nuns in this town.
Yes.
And then just a quick thing. So that was all the dreams. And then a quick thing about melancholy.
Because that's what they keep calling it.
Because that's what she had. So that was the diagnosis. So melancholy kind of goes back to 1621. A man named Robert Burton wrote a book called The Anatomy of Melancholy.
Okay.
And it was actually kind of like a big deal at the time because it went to, instead of just viewing melancholy as this natural temperament that just, you know, someone has this, they viewed it as a disease. Like they viewed it as, you know, a thing that maybe is something wrong that can be, you know, cured. Yeah. And then there's all, like it was used a lot like in the 18th and 19th centuries, or 17th, 18th, 19th centuries. And for better or worse, like, you know, it was viewed as one of like 4 kind of major afflictions people could have.
It was a catch-all.
Yeah, it was kind of like a catch-all. And like melancholy with hysteria, it was sometimes, you know, thrown in and out of that. But it was a thing that she would have been diagnosed with back then. And then ether.
Wild.
So it was first kind of discovered and used in 1540. And then it was used both recreationally to create euphoric states, but also medicinally. So for things like kind of numbing things or for, helping to kind of like knock people out.
Like procedures.
And stuff. But not necessarily the safest thing to just, you know, just suffocate her a little bit more with the ether.
Yeah, when he's like, oh, I'll up the dose, and he just goes and puts it on the cloth.
There's no actual like measurement or regulation or even tracking.
I'll up the dose. Just jabs it on the cloth.
But like if it was known to create this feeling of happiness, and you know that their problem is that they're melancholy, it kind of makes sense they would try that. Not a great idea.
No, but actually, current mental health treatments are
similar,
chasing the same thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Because there is a lot of talk of like rewiring, you know, like, you know, ingrained things. And if you could just get someone more used to being happy, it might override. So So yeah, just a light psych, mostly dream analysis tonight. But that's what's going on.
That was good. I feel like we had to do the dream analysis.
I agree.
The whole dream, or the whole movie was a dream. The whole dream was a movie.
Yeah, or was it? I don't know. We're gonna say they were dreams. The analysis.
Dream-esque.
Yep. I feel like we've talked about a few of the fun facts like during the movie. Okay, let's see. Yeah, I feel like we've actually talked about a lot of these.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. So, first fun fact, Robert Eggers, who was the writer-director for it, he did like a stage production of Nosferatu in high school. So he's like really been into Nosferatu.
Oh my gosh.
And they announced that they were working on this movie in 2015.
Oh
wow.
Like, so like this has been like in the works for like a very, very long time.
Almost a decade.
And like he has this quote, and like I don't have time to find it, but like he has this quote from 2015 when he was doing it, because he only released one movie, The Witch.
Yeah.
That he like directed. And like he was basically like, I can't believe I'm even thinking about doing. Like, this is like egocentric to think about trying to do a remake for Nosferatu.
Mm-hmm. That's a big.
But I think he's been a fan for like a very long time, and I feel like it went like kind of viral. He wrote like a letter to the critics before the movie came out, kind of just like explaining his view on it and like why he was a good person to remake the movie. Yeah. And he was like, I've loved it for a really long time. Like he wrote like a whole letter about like why he is good, like why he is the person to remake this movie, which I don't know. When I read it, I was like, this is actually kind of nice. Like I feel like you can see like the passion that he has for it. Like he was excited about it.
Mm-hmm. That's cool.
Let's see what other fun fact. Oh, one that I thought was funny is that Robert Eggers credits SpongeBob SquarePants for introducing the character of Nosferatu to younger generations.
Yes.
Okay. Which I thought was so funny. Yeah, because there's I remember it. There's like an episode where there's like a very small like like callback to Nosferatu. It's like
that's amazing.
Okay, for people who watch SpongeBob, it's like the hash slinging slasher episode where like it's like a spooky SpongeBob episode, and there's like a point where like the lights are flickering and then it turns and it's like Nosferatu just flicking the light switches.
Oh my god!
Like on and off. So.
Oh my gosh.
For people who grew up with SpongeBob, you may remember that.
That's amazing.
Good job, SpongeBob.
Yes. Let's see.
Yeah, I never watched SpongeBob.
I did with Matthew.
Yeah, so good.
Yeah.
I was a little old for it, I think.
Yeah, I did with Matt.
Although kids watch it now, like still. Like kids still know it.
I'm just like singing the song.
Who lives in a pineapple under the sea?
Most of it was filmed in Czechia and like Prague.
Yeah, you saw that because we stayed through the credits.
Yes.
Oh yeah, it was all Jan
filming in
Czech. Like everyone's name was Jan.
Yes. Yeah, no, I bet they used a lot of like local background actors.
Yeah.
Because, it was very similar.
Everyone was Jan.
I love that.
Let's see. Oh, to get the, I guess we didn't really talk about it. Like the lighting, you get that like super moonlit look.
Yes.
You know, like the shadows are like intense in the whole movie.
Yes.
They filmed everything during the day in order to get really bright lights. And then after they would like go through and process to like remove
that's gonna be so much crazy work.
Yeah. So they like removed kind of like the reds and yellows from the scenes to make it look like nighttime. So
I loved the whole look of this movie.
I am so interested in like how that works.
Mm-hmm.
Like I would just want to watch someone like, what are you doing? Because it's so cool.
Yeah. No, it felt like a callback to those like old movies that have those like dramatic lighting. So it worked.
Love it.
Totally.
Okay, we already talked about how good Lily Rose Depp was in this, but apparently during her audition, like the director literally started crying.
I heard
like,
that.
It was like it was literally that good. Yes. It was so moving. Like you can tell it was like he was excited because she was excited. Like she loved all like the vampire movies. So I think they were just a good fit.
If you can get that, like that's the best case scenario. Like
let's see.
SpongeBob SquarePants.
Something you wish. I feel like there were so many random ones, and I can't.
I mean, I feel like we really did like.
I feel like we talked.
I feel like I know. As I'm like going through, like it's like wait, we talked about them like during the thing. Okay, yeah, we talked about it, but during the nude scene for Bill Skarsgård, apparently most of his body is covered by prosthetics, including the penis. But the things that were exposed were the palms of his hands and the soles of his feet. And I'm just like trying to think of that sensation of like your entire body being covered by prosthetics. And then like just the palms of like your hands and feet are exposed.
I feel like it would feel really claustrophobic.
Right? Okay, so I always think of this whenever we're talking about a movie with like giant prosthetics, but I always think of Jim Carrey in The Grinch.
Oh.
Because he literally had like, what was it? It was like not the FBI, but he literally had like
he like met with like torture specialists.
With a torture specialist on how to withstand like, because it took him, not only was wearing it insane, but getting into it took so long every day. So I always think of that because like I'm sure this was a very similar experience. Like because you're not putting on like a cheap suit. It's like intricately laid on and detailed.
Yeah. It makes me think of Heidi Klum and her Halloween outfits that she does every year. She's amazing. But I think about like she's like
worm one is gonna
the worm one. Her worm. Did you see her one this year? Where she's ET. It was similar to Worm. Like like her face was the neck. Like and you can't even see it. She's so good. But like how long does that take? It's
crazy.
And then the last one I have for Bill Skarsgård is again because he looked so creepy. He always tried to like go around and like tell people jokes and like keep it lighthearted. Which I think he did in like It as well. Like he tries to make sure people aren't scared of him while filming.
Which is really interesting because sometimes you'll hear of movies where they like intentionally keep if it's like that they're really contentious or there's a villain, they will intentionally isolate that person from the cast. Which I'm like, God, that is dedication to your craft. But that's got to be heavy.
You're adding a lot.
Oh my gosh, what a movie!
That was so good.
Like it's gonna be one of those ones that I want to see again.
100%.
And I bet you would catch so much.
Like if you're just in a very, very quiet, like in your own home, just watching it, like
detailed. All right, well, I guess it's time.
Yeah.
Here on Spooky Sips, we don't give stars, we give sips. So out of 5 sips of blood, how many sips do you give this movie? Oh, I gotta think about this one for a second.
Right? I have to think about this.
Because I like really...
Yeah. And it's like, I swear maybe there's just a bias of us all watching it together. That like I always want to give them higher. Like
we need to do a statistical study of our movies.
We do.
And I bet all the ones that we watch together are higher.
Except for Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I really, really liked this one a lot.
Yeah.
It did feel for me a little bit long. But I think also we've just had a week and a half of family time together. So I think I'm just really tired.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give it a 4.25.
Yeah,
I really loved it.
Because
I really loved it.
I think what I was trying to say is like, is it a 5? And I agree. I think it was like the middle, and I love a slow burn. I'm actually okay with long movies.
Yes.
I have watched Dune multiple times.
Right.
You know, I'm okay with a long movie, but I started to get a little sleepy, and like maybe that was just holiday tiredness. But it was so good, so I'm going to give it like 4.5.
Yeah, 4.5 is what I was thinking because I also was like, is this a 5?
It's close.
It's really close. But yeah, I agree. I'm a 4.5.
I was thinking of a 4.5, but I was like not remembering what else I've given a 4.5 to. So I went down a tiny bit, but
it's up there.
It's between a 4.25 and a 4.5 for me.
Yeah, and honestly, I think like any movie that we give 3 or above,
100%
like means we think you should go see it.
Absolutely.
Like we'll probably watch it again.
And then there are some that we give less. And we'll tell you, like, no, you shouldn't, or you still should, but...
This one, absolutely go see. It was great.
And actually, I have to say, like, I know that the chair thing was funny, but other than that, like, it was a very pleasant movie theater experience. Everyone was quiet. Nobody got their phones out. Like, everyone was very respectful.
People are getting better.
Yes, I guess final fun fact. This movie, like, did incredibly well. So we are recording this on New Year's. So it kind of just came out on Christmas. But it made, I think, double what they were estimating it would make in the box office. So
they did a good job with like the trailers. They really did that less is more.
Yeah.
So like they left a lot to be seen.
Yes.
I was very happy that I went and saw it after I went and saw it.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay, well, hang on. I have to.
I know. I think we talked about a few.
We did.
Well, I know which one we are, but I want to make sure that I quote the person, the fan that suggested that. I want to like. Okay, so next time on Spooky Sips, we are going with a fan vote. Back in December, we asked our Instagram fans, like, what do you want us to add to the list? And there were a lot, so there's going to be more to come. But next time, we are watching The Black Coat's Daughter. This is a 2015 movie. I think I'm the only one that's seen it.
I haven't seen it.
I've never even heard of it.
I'm excited. It does take place like in the winter, so the winter vibes are there.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll tag her when we make our posts about it, but it's from Literary Love 123. She's a follower of ours, and she suggested it. Okay. It's a great choice. Nice. I'm very excited.
Okay.
All right. I'm excited. Thank you, Literary Love 123.
Yeah.
So if you haven't seen it, get watching and get sipping, and we will see you next time on Spooky Sips.
Bye.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Spooky Sips. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you're listening. To stay up to date on all the spooky things we're up to, follow us on Facebook and Instagram at spookysips_podcast. And if you want to help support the podcast, consider buying us a coffee, or really a cocktail. We are completely independent, so every little bit goes a long way to keeping our podcast running and improving. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.